Hello, everybody! Welcome to another, I'm not sure if these are technically episodes, but let's call them episodes. Welcome to another episode of Mr. Mayo's Poetry Unit. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at this actually kind of funny poem. It's called A Wife's Changing of a Husband. And in this poem, what we're going to do together is understand a little bit more about a poetic device called irony. Irony is when you have this one thing and you have pretty much a good picture of what you're looking at, and then all of a sudden, boom, it changes. It's meant to be funny in a way. So, what we're going to read it. We're going to explain anything that you didn't necessarily understand, and then we're going to come back and explore the irony of this poem. So let's begin. Precise and to the point, nice when quivering, to feel it shake is most splendouring. It is quite to my taste to waste away his flesh and bone, but the missus will have none of it, for she says I must atone. What have I done wrong, besides the massacres, when people hid from their shadows deep obscured? But to turn a phrase, I have changed, honest I have, but for now I must run, for I hear the missus calling. Okay, now as usual, let's go through the poem, make sure that we understand all the words first. Quivering. Quivering is something, it's this almost shake that people do. It's a very light shake to quiver. Quiver usually has the connotation of either being cold or fear. You don't quiver just because you're excited. You're quivering with anticipation. No, you quiver when you're cold or you're really scared. Splendoring. Splendoring is not a word, at least according to Oxford Dictionary or Merriam-Webster. Splendoring is a great example for us to take a look at how poetry doesn't have to follow all of the conventions of regular English, right? Mr. Mayo, if he saw you write splendoring in one of your essays, he'd cross it off, write SP with a question mark. What are you doing? This is not a word. You can't use this in your essay, but your poem, you can. Down here, massacre, I'm pretty sure thanks to the news, whether it be on the telly, on the radio, or in the newspaper, you all understand what a massacre is. Unfortunately, it happens often enough in the news and in the world for the news to talk about that you all already know what that is. So I won't talk about that one. But obscure. Obscure means it's difficult to perceive, difficult to understand. Whew. So, now, let's take a look. Before we actually get to the poetic device called irony, I wanted to take a quick moment because I actually noticed this when I was reading the poem to you. This very first line has a small sound device in it. And I say small sound device because it's only used once. And that is alliteration. Alliteration is when you repeat the same sound, often at the beginning of a word, over and over again, to sort of emphasize the point that you were trying to make. And yes, I did just steal that off the screen. Whatever. So, let's move on. What we now want to look at actually is irony. This poem is ironic because we start this poem off, especially these first 6 lines, precise and to the point, nice when quivering, to feel it shake is most splendoring. We hear this speaker start off very calm, very almost satisfied in a way. To feel it shake is most splendoring. It's bringing great joy. And then the speaker clarifies what they mean. It is quite to my taste to waste away his flesh and bone. To waste away, right? We sometimes, still in modern day, to say, I'm going to waste you, right? I'm going to kill you. To waste away literally means like to just rot away. It doesn't necessarily mean kill, but in this instance, I'm pretty sure that it's definitely got that meaning behind it, right? To waste away his flesh and bone, probably what this guy, this rather crazy speaker, is pretty on point saying, yeah, you know what, I really just, in my spare time, some people like to walk on the beach, some people like to sit out in the rain, some people like to walk their dogs. I like to kill people. At this moment, you should run away. And this poem is ironic because immediately after we fully understand that this speaker is crazy and a murderer, probably, if either he hasn't already killed someone, he thinks about it pretty often. Right after we understand this, but the missus will have none of it, for she says I must atone. All of a sudden, we're looking at this poem and going, you are a murderer, or you want to be, but you won't because your wife says so? And then we come back to this earlier point. What have I done wrong? Almost the murderer trying to, explain himself, going, what have I done wrong? Besides the massacres, when I killed all of these people. And now we know he's not just thinking about it, he's done it before. He's probably done it before. To the point that he was famous for it, where people are hiding. They're hiding and they're afraid of their own shadows. After these two little lines here in the second stanza where we're like, you're crazy, but you're afraid of your wife? How are you afraid of your wife? Why are you afraid of your wife? If you're this bad, what is wrong with your wife that makes you so afraid of her? And then we have this full retreat, right? We have this full retreat from this beginning, these first 6 verses. And then the third stanza, where all of a sudden we've gone back to this idea with the wife, but to turn a phrase, I have changed. Honest, I have. But for now, I must run, for I hear the missus calling again. This murderer, this crazy murderer, afraid of his wife, afraid to the point that he hears her coming and he has to run. He doesn't want to be around because she's going to be around too. Either A, his wife is even crazier than he is, or he is house trained. One of the two. And it's ironic because we have this crazy murderer, but he's afraid of his wife. That is irony. That makes the poem just a little more interesting. It could have been a really crazy poem. Man, I just love killing people, wasting away their flesh and bones. I used to massacre them all the time. But interjected in there, sort of just right there in the middle of it, and then as the ending, the final word. But, I'd really love to do that, but I hear my wife coming, so I'm going to have to put away all my devices, all my guns and my knives and my can of acid that I like to pour on people's faces. Yeah, you know what? I hear my wife coming, so I'm going to have to go. That is why this poem is ironic. That's what makes the poem just a little more interesting. So I hope that you can see how juxtaposing these contrasting images between the crazy murderer and the husband who's afraid of his wife, how that as a poetic device makes the poem just a little bit more interesting. It grabs our attention and it actually makes us chuckle a little bit. Oh, well, it makes me chuckle a little bit because it's like, dude, you've killed people before, but you're afraid of your wife. Okay, that's kind of funny. Props to you. Good job. So, what I want you to take away from this is irony, right? Those contrasting images juxtaposed together. Now, juxtaposed to make sure, because sometimes we don't always understand. Mr. Mayo talks to you sometimes like you're in college. Juxtapose means to put two things together that wouldn't otherwise be together. Think of it as junction and posing or presenting. So, that's what we are to take away from this poem. I hope that this has either given you a good chuckle or a time to consider how you might write your own poetry to evoke just, something different from your reader. Not just, roses are red and violets are blue. I love you. No. Been used so many times. Let's try something interesting. Let's talk about a crazy murderer and the wife that he's afraid of. That's interesting. Roses are red and violets are blue. This poem makes no sense. Microwave. Again, juxtaposing these contrasting images, right? So, I hope that you have taken something really good away from this. In the comments below, I'm more than happy to read what exactly you think about this guy. Is he a crazy murderer? Has he killed people before? And why is he afraid of his wife? Remember, as always, use textual evidence. You have to point out specific verses, right? Specific lines or specific phrases, just part of a verse, or specific words that make you think, you know what? I think that this guy, this guy is afraid of his wife. Why? Why is he afraid of his wife? In the comments below, I'm more than happy to read those. Thank you. As John Green always says at the end of his videos, and yes, I'm, imitating that a little bit. Here's another contrasting image, John Green and Mr. Mayo. Complete opposites. As he usually says, don't forget to keep being awesome. Bye-bye.